Well, it looks like everybody's kind of settled in their spot, so let's call this semi-annual business meeting to order. As first order of business, I'd like to invite Betty Lee Hill forward to offer us an opening prayer.
Will you join me in prayer? Lord God, we came today to worship you. We have done that through music, through hearing your word, through the spoken word to our hearts. And so now, Lord, we continue our worship in service. You have led us and directed us in the past. And so now, for the present and the future, we ask your blessing, your guidance, your very presence with us as we give ourselves as a body of Christ into your service. Be with us now as we find our way. In Jesus' name, amen.
As you all are aware, Betty Lee is one of our deacons, so I thought it fitting that as one of our servants, she opened us in prayer. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the semi-annual business meeting. And to start off with, I'd like to make an exciting announcement. As most of you are aware and probably remember, in our January meeting, we voted on a slate of nominees to fill leadership positions. One of those leadership positions, the chair of the ministry council, was vacant, and there was no nominee. So, because there was no nominee, we elected to ask Pastor Katie to step into that role, and she filled that role until May when she departed. Part of the arrangement originally was that having no nominee, upon understanding and agreement with the congregation, we would continue to look to fill that position. And we have earnestly been trying to find somebody. In May, when Katie left, obviously we had a significant gap at the EC level, and we have been earnestly trying to find someone to fill that position. Well, it's my great pleasure and excitement to let you know that we have found someone who has offered to fill that position, and I thank Alicia Mitchell for stepping forward and filling that position. So she will step on to the Executive Council starting this month, and she will also be on the slate of nominees that we present to the congregation for formal voting in January. So again, thank you very much, Alicia. And next, I would like to invite, who am I inviting? I'm inviting somebody, I've just totally lost it. Myra. Woo! I'd like to invite Myra forward to spend a few minutes talking about outreach. Thank you. Wow.
Hello, everybody. First of all, I have to say, Dan, your sermon this morning took away a whole lot of my first paragraph.
You're welcome.
Because, deep down, I've always wanted to...
14 minutes instead of 16.
Exactly. No, he made me 3 minutes. So I was like, oh, okay, that's why he preached what he did, because he knew my first paragraph was 5 about serving. Sorry. The first thing I want to share with all of you is I am chair of the outreach team here at the church. And if, just real quick, Chuck didn't stay, I don't think, Eklund. Don Phillips, I didn't see this morning, is on outreach. Chris Oldham, Linda Hutchinson in the back, and Graham left us. So, well, we are your outreach team. What I really want to do this morning is say to you, yep, we are, however, so are all of you. You have done an exceptional job this year. Half a year of when we have a project and we have said, we need crackers, we need this, we need that for that. Unbelievable. I would come in a couple of days later and the baskets would be full. I'd get a phone call from Amelia saying, we have the stuff, it needs to be delivered. So you all are part of the outreach team, and I thank you for that to start. What I want to do is just tell you a little bit about where you have done your outreach, starting with our newest one, which you guys I love, and it is Colorado Springs, I Love You. I know you have seen it on television. If you still get the paper, you've seen it. And what it is a city-served group that allows churches, nonprofits, and other businesses the opportunities to work and give in all kind of ways right here in the community. The great part of it is we don't have to think about where the outreach is coming. We get a text that says, here's what we need, can you help? And I will tell you, it's because Amelia is involved in all kinds of things in our community. So Amelia said, this is one we need to reach out to. So let me tell you what we've already done. Through their School Connect, that's one of their biggies. They really, really like reaching out to our schools. We have connected even more with Columbia Elementary, which is one of our closest and poorer economical schools. So here's what we have done. 3 times we've gone over to them. One time, there were 4 of us. They needed buildings in the back painted. So we're like, well, okay, we can do that. Didn't have to take paint, didn't have to take brushes, just went over. They told us what they wanted painted. We painted buildings for them, and I painted a, believe it or not, bench that was out in the back. We did some weeding for them, and so we're going to continue that connection with Columbia Elementary. We also did a little bit with Steele, not as much as Columbia, but another elementary school that's close here. So just to let you know, the next City Served Day is on October the 5th. Besides Columbia having another project, there are several others. If you're interested, call either myself or Amelia and we'll tell you what the other City Serve projects are. They're really fun, and I think probably part of it is not only did we work with the staffs, but we also worked with, that day, 2 other churches. So it was really awesome, a Mennonite church and Episcopal or something, you know, so awesome working with other churches while we were there. Another project that you all came through, unbelievable, was the City Backpack Bash. I know you've seen that on television lately because it was in the paper, it was on television, and through you, we got 31 backpacks. So we delivered them early May to the Citadel, a new church that's there. And in the church, everybody who collected backpacks took them there. When we got there, all kinds of supplies to be put into the backpacks, paper, pencils, everything like that. And then those were handed out at 3 different sites in the city. You were part of that. So awesome. 12,000 backpacks were given from churches, from organizations, and businesses. Great community outreach, and for us, just to have First Baptist involved is exciting, and our name out there. So wanted to tell you about that and how good it was. Don Phillips isn't here, and I hope he's okay, but I want you to know he continues to be the contact person with La Puente. He took over 61 health kits. And again, the sewing group and all of you brought in the stuffings for that, Band-Aids and hand washing and you name it. So he took over 61 health kits to La Puente to be handed out in that community from all of you. He and whoever wants to are going to go to the gleaning on September 14th to do potatoes, and those are also taken back to La Puente. I did it once, it's interesting. Piles that you just, you grab potatoes, put them in piles, and then those are given out to families. So let Dawn or me know if you think you might want to, or Linda. Linda's done it more than I have. So if you think you might want to take a trip to see La Puente, let one of us know. Another new place that Dan spoke of a little bit is The Place. It's right here in town, and it is, again, a nonprofit group that's actually been here a while. Never heard of it until we got involved with them this year. They serve homeless youth right here in town. Knew nothing about it, and they're building a new place for them to be able to have a place to sleep, and that should be opening soon. In fact, may even be ready to go. Anyway, we, 6 people in the congregation, attended the off the street breakfast this year. We've done it 2 years now, but off of under the bridge, so where a lot of the youth live. And so they did it with that idea in mind to sort of show where we can do instead of them being under the bridge. So you again, we went to Gary, EC, and said, hey, can we give some money? We got $300 to give to the place. So you need to know that's where some of your money went. We also have taken over twice now hygiene that you've provided, hygiene products, crackers, things that the staff at the place can just go out on the streets and hand to not only the teens, but other people that are out there. So very, very exciting to know that we're involved with the place. And when we say to you, okay, this time this is where it's going, you'll know that it goes straight to them and from them straight right out on the streets. So exciting. Next thing, the Care and Share mobile truck. I shared with you last time I talked that they quit coming to First Baptist, and will tell you, I'm sure you knew, I was a little mad. But they're going to the outskirts. I told you they're at schools, they're at other places, so they're still serving. It's just that we're not one of these stops. There goes the fire truck. However, one of the places it stops, now is First Lutheran, right downtown. And I had a text from the Cheryl Mahan, who is the outreach person there. The truck will be there in September, and she said, I know First Baptist did a great job with handing out diapers in particular, women's hygiene products as well. So she said, what do you guys think about bringing that over when we hand out our food, and so you can still be a part of it when they're at our church? So outreach is going to start that up. We'll join with First Lutheran, and yes, we'll forgive Karen Scher for dropping us. So that will be coming up. Family Promise. Right now, we haven't hosted here. You'll recall what that involves is a week downstairs using our upstairs for families who need night sleeping places. We've done it, I don't even remember how many years we did do it, but when COVID happened, that stopped actually, and we have not restarted it. However, it is going to restart again, and tentatively, we are on for October. So I would just ask that you begin to think about that and what it requires. Dinner each night for 6 nights, usually 3 families, breakfast items, lunch items for the parents to be able to pack lunches for the kids. And last but not least, the hardest to supply, overnight hosts. There has to be 2 people here. So just begin to think about that. We have not received in writing or via any other kind for sure this is when we need you, but we think it will be in October, and EC has okayed us doing it, if indeed we have the people who will help pull it off. So keep that in mind. Also, just one other thing with Family Promise, they are opening a brand new day care center. It's at 324th North Nevada. And on 9/7, they are having a opening celebration where everybody in our congregation, or if you've ever volunteered for Family Promise, are invited to attend. It's in from noon till 2 on, what did I say, 9/7. So if you get a chance, what that is a house where the kids are taken care of while parents have access to computer and counseling to be able to go out and try and find jobs and housing. So a great outreach to our community. And you all are invited. I just really quickly, I don't know how many of you can see it, as a fundraiser at that, there will be 27 baskets like this, asking people to bid on them. The cards are out in the Curry Center. If you don't want to go online and do. Oh, you can't hear me? Sorry. You can go online and bid on one of the baskets, which will be at that celebration on the 7th. Or if you don't want to go online and do it, grab a card as you leave. That day they will allow you to do it, your name on as an auction, and you'll find out later if you won or not. So that's the other thing with Family Promise. And then just 2 last things. I went over my 3 minutes, admit. If you hear of anything in the city that you think might be an outreach for us, let us know. We have a lot going on, but we're always interested in hearing in new things in our community. And then last but not least, remember you'll be getting a phone call in the next month, 2 months, saying, what would you think about serving on outreach or one of the other teams. So start to think and pray about that as well. I won't ask for any questions.
Well, we've run out of time. No. So I'd like to invite Kristen up to talk about the very important happenings in Christian education.
Hi, everyone. I'm here representing the Christian education team. Our team is Dawn, who is up here helping with the blessing of the backpacks, Sierra Spencer. Alicia was on it, but since she's stepping into a new role, she'll be stepping down from CE, and myself. We have a lot of happenings in Christian education, and many times Christian education focuses on children and youth, as the adult Sunday school classes are fairly self-sufficient, but when they have needs, we do address them as they come up. Some of the things, starting with the children, we had Praise Camp this summer, which it's very visual for you all because we have Praise Camp Sunday. You saw our amazing leaders, but Praise Camp doesn't happen without everyone's help in the church. So there were, I think, 34, 35 kids at Praise Camp this year, which included kids from our church community, but also friends of kids from our church community. There were a couple of kids that came that just saw it advertised, but it's really a very local ministry that we do, that are kids that are associated and have been in the past and bring their friends. So it's an amazing, amazing time. We raise money for Family Promise, so we're connecting with that outreach team. We also asked for supplies, like snacks and stuff, to be brought in for the kids. You all went above and beyond with that. We had a cookout on Thursday to celebrate Praise Camp. Thank you to the Jorgensens for supplying the food for that. It was amazing. We had 90 people there. So that was pretty awesome. We have people, the church and adult and youth volunteers came out and showed up. The youth were incredible helpers with our children. And thank you for donating those snacks. Thank you to Kathy for making, for sewing the banners for us to create during Praise Camp. So it really, what is amazing about Praise Camp is it is a whole church community event, and we appreciate all that you all do to help make that happen. With Children's Sunday School, we moved rooms this year, upstairs to downstairs, and we kind of moved it into a kind of a smaller space, and it seems that we have so many children each week to fill that smaller space. And it is incredible to see them. We are still doing Godly Play curriculum down there, which tells the stories from the Bible so that children are familiar as they get older and read the stories directly from the Bible. We go through Old Testament typically in the summer and fall, and then into New Testament come around Christmas time. We also are looking into having our fifth graders help tell the story, because we're finding that they're getting mature and they've seen the stories over and over and over, so we want them to help tell the story as they get into fifth grade. Dan's going to be talking more about youth when we get to that point, but this last year we did Youth Fridays once a month. Had lots of volunteers helping with that too. They did lots of fun events with Pastor Katie. And even though Pastor Katie moved on, we have been continuing having youth help at Praise Camp. Dawn took them out to pizza during Praise Camp to help thank them for their help. And we had like a youth skate get together this past Friday, which was a lot of fun. And Dan and I even showed off our awesome skating skills, right? It was amazing. We didn't fall, so we're grateful for that. Let's see. Young adult Sunday school, we have so many youngish adults and families coming in to join our congregation. On Friday at the cookout, we are actually going to be talking about what a youngish adult Sunday school class might look like. So be praying for us as we look into that, who might be interested, who might be kind of leading that in the coming days and months ahead. That's what I have. Did I cover everything? And did I stay within my time limit?
I mean, you got Myra as a standard.
All right. Thank you very much for supporting us in Christian education.
I should apologize, Myra. I'm just giving you fun. So next, I'd like to invite Sandy forward to talk a little bit about what the deacons have been doing as a group.
Well, two things first. Jack offered me a minute and a half, so I'll be brief. And Dan put us on the spot in the sermon. So, deacons, I'm representing the deacons today. I'm not the head of the deacons, but if you're a deacon, raise your hand so people know who you are. Karen and Jack and Barbara and Betty and Pick and myself. What is a deacon? In Greek, the word diakonos means servant or helper, and in ancient times, it referred to the servants who walked through the dust to wait on tables. So now we use a deeper meaning to provide care, but Betty Lee likes to tell us we are walking through the dust with you. What you need, we're walking there with you, we hope. Our theme for this year has been connections. We aim to make connections with each one of you, and we pray that those connections will help build community. How do we do that? Well, we meet once a month, and at the beginning of each deacon meeting, we come to the sanctuary first. We sit around where we would sit during church, not in one big group, but we sit in various places, and we just have a quiet time where each of us offers silent prayer. Our hope, our aim is that we are able to pray for each one of you while we are here. If you're a member, if you're a visitor, if you're able to attend, if you're not able to attend for whatever reason, we cover you with prayer. After that, we gather in the Hurlburt room and have a brief devotional, and then we have reports. We hear from the pastor, EC, and each member about what we know that's going on. Our goal is to assist Pastor Dan and your church staff in providing each one of you with a little more personal care. New members are assigned a sponsor to walk beside them. Jeannie walked down with Grayer this morning. She is his sponsor. Visitors are contacted to learn more about them. Who are they? Make them feel welcome. Do you have a need? Have you had surgery? Been out sick? We hope that you've gotten a card or a call or a visit, and definitely we've been in prayer for you. Birthdays and holidays, we lift you up. We aim to celebrate you. If you would like a visit or a call, if you have a need or you know somebody who is in need, please, we would love to hear from you. And lastly, if you have stopped to chat with a friend, touch base at the church or during the week, if you've called someone that you have missed seeing or sent them a card, you are walking through the dust alongside of us, and we appreciate that. Each one of you is, in a sense, a deacon. If you feel called to do more and walk through the dust by offering support and care, please contact one of us.
Thank you, Sandy. I feel like I got sermon number 2 today. That was actually great. Yeah. So next, I'd like to invite Dan forward, who has an opportunity to tell us about what's going on in the larger church.
Hi, everyone. Two quick things before we get into the items that I actually have planned to talk about. One is just to add on to what Jay shared about Elisha stepping in. You should know that Elisha and I have been in conversation for a month and a half, and we've been praying and talking and thinking together about what that might look like. And so it really is, we feel, a gift from God to have her step into that role. We're really honored. Thank you, Elisha. The second thing on that same note is Elisha stepping in is one aspect, but there are a handful of leaders who spend countless hours here. Many of you have served on the executive council. You know the demands of that role, the responsibilities and the burdens you feel by being in that role. The rest of the executive council is here today. I think Gary Hill, our treasurer, Jay, our moderator, James, who's property chair, but also functioning in that absence as the vice moderator. And where is Jack? Jack's down here, chair of our deacons, serves on the EC in that way. And Therese, where are you at? Therese is our clerk. That's your executive council. We should just take 1 second and say thank you to them. We know there's lots of work that doesn't happen without many hands beyond that executive council, but they are committing to, even to the point of being held legally responsible for the organization by accepting that role. There's a lot of responsibility, prayer, and effort that goes into serving in that way, and so we're really thankful for them. Okay, two big items that are on the docket for us to discuss and to fill you in on what the plan is moving forward. And then we're going to get you out of here for lunch and address any questions you might have and then get you out of here for lunch, okay? The first is the stewardship of space piece. Many of you will recall that my very first Saturday with you, when you all set me downstairs and peppered me with questions in the fellowship hall after a breakfast meeting, I think it was Roy Gardner, raised his hand and said, what do you see us doing with our building in service to the kingdom? Something like that. That was how my brain interpreted it, whatever it was that was said. And I said to him, and that's first Saturday before I'd even been voted in as your pastor, I said to him, I don't know, because I don't know the community well enough yet, but I do know this, the building, wonderful and beautiful though it is, has to be an instrument and not just a monument. If it becomes a monument, we've made it an idol and it no longer serves the purpose it was intended to be. That has been my mindset for 10 years. How do we begin to help our community see our church, and I mean community, our immediate neighbors, see our church not as a staid fortress, but as a building open to serve them. And what we've started to implement then is this kind of vision in which we would say, okay, well, we can't be everything. All these apartments coming in around us, all these neighbors moving in, 300 apartments across the street from our parking lot right now, starting to fill up. We can't be everything to them, but we can provide something. And what we kind of began to see this vision as it started to form was this idea that we could become, at least in some ways, a type of community center, that we could bring and invite people in to do ministry in our building so that it wasn't just open on Sunday mornings, which is when our neighbors see it open, right? Our neighbors go to work 8 a.m. on Monday morning. They come home at 5 p.m. They do that Monday through Friday. After they go to work, the staff roll in here. We open up the building. We close the building. Before they ever get home, they never see it open except for on Sunday mornings. Well, what if it was different? What if there was activity happening from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 6 or 7 days a week? That was kind of the idea we had in our brains. That meant we had to reshuffle or reset the checkerboard. Does that make sense? Godly Play moved downstairs into the old pre-K room. They had 2 rooms upstairs, 1 room downstairs, smaller, tighter. And in the way that God works these surprises, we suddenly had a very different feel for how many kids we suddenly had showing up. You know, it's like, oh, well, we've halved our space and doubled our children. This is great. Now what do we know? We've got a new problem. But it's been working beautifully, and the energy that it allows has been great. Here in just a moment, I'm going to give you kind of a virtual tour of all of that. That was one thing we had to do. We've also had to start rethinking the infrastructure of the building. If we're going to start renting space to offices, we have terribly unreliable internet and Wi-Fi in this building. If you've ever spent more than an hour here trying to get anything done, you know that to be true. It's a pain to even manage a Zoom call sometimes. We're working on that front right now. And so how do we begin to meet the needs of offices and other spaces, okay? So we began to thinking about inviting in other people who might fill that space, who had similar visions for care and service to our neighborhood. That was kind of the one thing we had going. It wasn't just meant to be anybody could rent. We weren't just going to rent space to anybody. The idea was we'd rent space to people and invite people in who had an idea and vision towards serving our community too. Okay? Cheryl Downey, Southern Colorado Psychotherapy, has been in our building renting an office from us since before I got here. So for over 10 years, she's been renting space. I don't know when she started. We don't even have a lease, really, I don't think, from her original days. Cheryl is now going to move in and take over. It has begun is using 3 other offices now. She's expanding. She offers counseling to a variety of age ranges. It does court-ordered type things as well. So she's constantly serving those in need in our neighborhood. Many of our congregants have benefited from her clinic's care. We've started to talk about the Thinkering Lab. It's a nonprofit that offered summer day programs all summer long. We had children in at the building at 8:30 every day, leaving at 4 every day. It was kind of a joy to come in and see this little crew of 5 or 6 kids coming down to open the door and get their last member for camp or whatever. They're going to keep on with an after-school program through the school year. And so that's Evelyn and Bob, and they have become kind of regular, everyday presence in our life here. More recently, we've started to have conversations with a play therapist who works with children and adults doing play therapy. She'll be renting Cheryl's old office. And as many of you know, and we've started this conversation, this kind of fell in our lap as we were just still forming the vision. First Christian Church is still on the docket. We don't have a lot to report right now. There are new pastors there getting things organized. But I had lunch with her last week, and the plan is that they would still be in conversations about what that looks like when they sell their building. I want to be very clear, because I had this conversation once with Will, and I realized I haven't been very clear about this. Will brought this up this morning. Not a merge. It's not 2 churches becoming 1 church. First Christian, we're talking about more something like nesting. Like they'll come stay with us until they feel healthy enough to go out on their own again, right? And so the idea is that they would come and we provide space because that's the right thing to do. And we would give them some offices and some administrative space, and then we would share lots of other spaces. Like the plan right now is to have a shared choir space, a shared music space, where our people would use it one evening, their people would use it one evening. Why reduplicate spaces that are only getting used for a couple of hours a week? Share it, put it to use, make it work. You make it an instrument, right? So that's the idea. We will, and you have my word on this, when we get to the point where it's time to really present details on First Christian, we will bring that to you. I'm hoping that will be before the next business meeting and a special called business meeting. We will present all that to you in advance. We will ask you to vote and approve that before we would invite another church to come nest with us, okay? So the idea was, as you can see here, this is the lower floor. I just want you to get your bearings. All of the lines are the pews you're sitting in right now. That's the sanctuary side. The other side's the education side. Michelle, will you go to the next one for me? This is a closer look on that one side. So you'll see where Hurlburt room is, where the nursery room is, and now where Godly Play is. You'll remember that it was a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we kind of made the commitment we wanted to bring the kids all down on the same level anyway. So when parents came in, their littles were right here, their elementary were right here. We had all of these on the same level to kind of help, for safety purposes, but also for just care purposes, okay? The next, am I on my ear mic or on this mic? You're on that mic. Okay. Yeah, I want you to switch it so I can turn and look at the screen. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead and go to the next slide too for me. Okay, so this is upstairs now, okay? So again, the far right, it's this airspace over our head. The left is the education wing. Go to the next one so we can get the close-up so everyone can see it a little bit closer. So if you were to get oriented, you would see what we're kind of thinking up there now. If you remember where the old music library was, that's now where we're looking for Cheryl's group to be, Southern Colorado Psychotherapy. They're going to rent those 3 offices over there. Or they are renting, let me say that differently. The Thinkering Lab is in the old, what was the choir room just before this, in 208. Just below them, 207, is where that shared choir space will be, the music room. All the stuff's there. We just got to get it set up. We just kind of moved it all in there and said, hey, Shazia, good luck. We'll find help. I promise there's people here who are eager to help you. Just south of there is the big Sunday school room that had the two little rooms off the side. That's all pretty much been cleared out. Well, there's a few things in there that are leftovers, but that's mostly been cleared out. We could finish it off in less than an hour. And that's where we think First Christian would move in and have his administrative space, exclusive administrative space. Just down and to the right of there, as you're looking at that, is the office where Cheryl was. That will become that play therapy practice. Her name's Tammy Bach. She's planning on moving in the last week of September right now. We're working to get that space ready and set for her before then. And then if you go back up and you see where I wrote lounge, the idea is that used to be the old library. If you remember, when I first got here, there was a library. Well, we vacated that years and years ago. It's kind of sat there being unused for a long time. What we're finding is with all of these other entities moving in up there, these other practices, they need a space for their people to sit, parents to sit when they're waiting for their kid to have therapy or whatever. Or they're coming to pick up their kids from the Thinkering Lab. We're going to turn that into kind of a waiting space. That's the plan, a kind of general waiting room area right there for those businesses that would be and organizations that would be renting from us up there. Could also serve as a waiting space like our greeting area does for First Christian whenever they're here, if they're waiting for a meeting with their pastor or whatever, becomes that waiting space, okay? So that's what's happening upstairs. One day, this is the virtual tour. One day in the near future, we're hoping to do an open house and invite everybody, have those people who are going to at least be there, and invite you to come up and actually see. But let me encourage you to go. They'll have doors open. You'll be able to see the spaces and what's happening with it. A reminder, all of that space 6 months ago, most of it was getting used less than 40 minutes a week. Less than 40 minutes a week. We have to stop sometimes and ask ourselves, what's really good stewardship? This is living into something that's getting used 6 to 7 days a week. Space that serves others, promotes health, growth, education, ministry. The best possible problem I can imagine is that we grow into a place where we have to figure out how to share space even more. Instrument, not monument, right? Okay. Next, we'll come back and let everyone, so if you have questions, pin them down, we'll come back. Next, we're going to talk about youth ministry. This was Friday night. That's me excited because I didn't fall in the corner with the yellow hat on. Though Lydia did her level best to make me fall, don't worry. The youth tried. They tried. Just a brief recap as we begin to think about youth ministry. We have a hard time saying how Katie left. Have you noticed today? I heard 3 different ways of saying Katie left. One was Katie departed. One was left us. Graham left us, and the other was Kristen said moved on. We're using euphemisms for death. You all hear that, right? She's not dead. She's alive and well. We send her with blessing. She's just no longer on staff at First Baptist Church, okay? God has called her somewhere else. It's okay to use that language, okay? God has moved her elsewhere. That's okay. We don't have to tiptoe around it, okay? Katie gave us almost 4 years. The average, I'm going to remind you, the average youth minister, full-time youth minister in American Baptist churches lasts 18 months at a single church. 18 months. We got 3 years and 8 months. It's one of the reasons we went with residency to help us with youth, because then we knew we had a guaranteed 2 years minimum, right? That was still 6 months better than the national average. It took 3 years and 8 months to really establish a group. And what I mean is not just individual teens and preteens who happen to go to church at the same place, that established a group. They care about each other. They take care of each other. They enjoy spending time together. They complement each other well. Kristen is not downplaying what's happened in that youth ministry. If you had seen what we saw during Praise Camp, it was mind-blowing to me. They were amazing. That's our youth group. That's Katie's good work. We can celebrate that. We can't stop thinking about it. Has to be on the front of our mind. Top priority. I told them this morning. I met with them this morning for 20 minutes during Sunday school and told them, you're my top priority right now. And Mally raised his hand and he said, so we're your favorites? So, what will we do? Here's the idea. As I began to think and pray about this, even before Katie left, I started wrestling with what the heck we do when we know that the tenure of youth ministry is so short. And then if you were to take that and say, well, it's a very part-time position, not a full-time role, and you're going to try and recruit locally only, it even gets shorter. That tenure gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And you know how hard it is on youth to have somebody step in only to flunk out or fail out or drop out 3 months, 4 months, 8 months later. It's so hard on them. They want to have somebody they can be in a relationship with and depend on. We can't depend on somebody if they're not here. So I started thinking and praying about what this could be, and I decided maybe the best thing we could do in the immediate was to think about youth ministry in an interim director kind of position. We had all these great volunteers who've been stepping up, serving in Sunday school capacities, helping with youth ministry, showing up on Friday nights, cooking meals. What if we had somebody who could kind of calcify, bring those people together and give them clear focus, give them some direction, help hold it together, empower them, equip them, not just focus on youth, but focus on empowering and encouraging our youth leaders, all of our youth leaders, not just the ones who happen to be on the payroll. Katie did some of that. She started that process. That's why we already had so many. So it was kind of a continuation of that idea. The idea was also that this person would be relationship focused. All of our kids are relational. They want relationship. That's the first thing, top priority in my mind for these kids. And then to create a safe space for them where they can continue to grow, have quality programming, begin to or lean into what Katie started and keep that rolling. And then as I began to think and pray about that, I thought, you know, what would work best is if we already had somebody who's familiar to all of our youth. So that it's not, the getting to know you period doesn't take as long. And as I started to think about that, one day I sat down with Bill Wolf to have lunch, and we were talking about just him coming to preach here one Sunday. And I said, hey, while I got you, let's talk. I want to pick your brain on something. What do you think we should do for youth ministry now that Katie's gone? And Bill kind of started to lay out very clearly, well, Dan, I think what you all need is someone who can take this, probably someone who's a little bit, more mature, further along, has some skills already. You won't have to think about it so much. It takes that off your plate. You're not having to manage another kind of, situation. And he started to lay out his vision, probably relational, knowing your kids, and probably da-da-da-da-da. And this light bulb went off as I was sitting there going, maybe this is our guy. Maybe this is the guy we need to be talking to. So what we've begun to work towards is to invite Bill Wolf, who's the retired pastor from Highland Park, still lives here in town. Bill's right over here. Can he stand up for just, he's ignoring me. He's already fitting right in with the youth. This is perfect. Bill, just raise your hand for me so people can see you. This is Bill Wolf. Bill Wolf, everyone, Bill Wolf. What I'm intending to share with you today is that my plan is that we bring Bill on in an interim, part-time capacity to bolster. We've had several of our younger adults step up and say they want to be way more engaged. Reyes Almo is one of those who's expressed this kind of heart, God placing a kind of special call in his heart to be with youth and teens, some experiences that have been feeding that. Melissa Jorgensen's come forward and said she wants to be much more engaged. Sierra Spencer has come forward and says she wants to be engaged. And where I thought maybe this was Bill equipping a single person to help us carry this on, it seems now that maybe Bill's coming to equip a team of people who are coming to help carry youth ministry on and let church be church to our youth. Okay, so the role then, there was this kind of idea about a role. The plan is that we would bring Bill on as our part-time to equip that team and to share the responsibilities of providing that safe and encouraging environment for our youth so they continue to grow. That is the plan moving forward. I shared that with the youth today, and there was a collective sigh of relief in the room because Bill is known to many of our youth already as their middle school camp pastor. He's already established that relationship with them. And there was this like, oh, okay, that's great, because what they're afraid of is we're going to say, and we're going to bring a stranger in, and that stranger's going to do everything differently, and it's going to make everything really hard on you. And so their first question was, after they found out it was Bill, I said, okay, so are there any questions? And Lydia's hand went up and said, so can we still do retreats then? I was like, okay, we're good. She's worried about the events, not the person anymore, right? That's what that tells me. Next Sunday, Bill and I will be with the youth and their parents all morning as we sit down and begin to let them get acquainted or reacquainted with Bill again. And we're going to invite a lot of our volunteers to be at that conversation too. That's how we're planning on moving forward with youth ministry this fall. It would be a very part-time role. Bill is a full-time sub at, tell me his school again, I always forget. Timberview Middle School. Full-time sub at Timberview Middle School. He also coaches 4 sports, so he's with junior high kids all day. All day. And he said, well, what the heck? Why not do, a few more hours outside of that with somebody else? And the first thing he asked was, how many 6th graders do you have? Because they're the worst. No, that's not. I'm just kidding. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. I made that up. But they are, and we all know it, so it's okay. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, so that's the plan, all right? Okay, I wanted to lay all that out. Next up is just questions from you on any of that content. Between me and Myra, we covered it all. We have got it all covered.
Just wondered about salary
James, will you do that?
and how we were going to handle that.
He said he would work for peanuts. Styrofoam peanuts. Bill is, we are going to pay him, but a very part-time kind of salary. So 10 hours, the idea is 10 hours a week. We know that that's maybe not realistic, so part of what we're asking Bill to do is to help us think realistically also while he's doing that. So yes, Bill is stepping in that way to kind of help us for, a very minimal salary, get this ball rolling, yeah. We may up it once we see what kind of work it is, but it's a fraction, right? A fraction of what we were paying a full-time pastor. So it does still help us. When we met in December, I said that my goal very clearly with this deficit budgeting thing, we couldn't keep it going, right? We knew it's not sustainable, not realistic. My goal was to cut half of the deficit internally and to raise the other half from external income. We're really close with these changes. We are really, really close to that. We may not get all the way there this year, but we probably within the next 2 years will be there. Balanced budget in our times. Imagine that. Any other questions?
Mine is not a question, but it is a comment. Because there are no questions, I just want to assure you that it's because we trust you and we trust the executive committee. We just trust you to do what's best for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If that's not true, this is your moment. Okay. Oh, one more, Barbara. Oh, wait.
I was looking at the picture of the second story, the second floor, and the lounge, and what was a library, and it's a pass-through.
Yes.
Are we going to need furniture for it?
Yes.
Okay, I was just thinking of the capital.
Barbara's thinking about the lounge and if we need furniture for it. And the answer is, yeah, we will. But we're going to outfit it, maybe just to get by for a little while, but we're going to try and outfit it so it feels like a comfortable sitting space. Yeah. Bill.
I just want to fill in a couple of the spots that Dan forgot to share with you. I spoke here on June 2nd, and then I was here like 2 or 3 weeks after that in worship, and we'd had lunch, and we'd had that discussion about youth ministry, and before the service says, hey, you got a couple minutes after church, I got to ask you a question. And I'm thinking he's going to say, hey, I'm going to be gone a Sunday. Can you fill the pulpit for me that Sunday? And his question was, instead of that, which is what I was expecting, was, hey, I want you to consider being the interim youth minister. We have had like 3 lunches together, talked about things. I'm an old guy who spends a lot of time with middle schoolers. That kind of keeps me young. And I know a lot of the kids here. Lily just gave me a hug after church. So I got kind of a running start on this. But I just want you to know, this was not my plan, okay? It's somebody else besides God.
I was going to give God credit. Let me say one last thing on that, and then I'll close this in prayer, and Jay can adjourn the meeting. Kristen and I grew up in a church that could not ever afford a youth minister, not while we were there. We had a small little youth group, probably 10 or 12 of us that met weekly in Sunday school, and then at our youth director's house on Sunday nights. And our youth director was a 70 to 75-year-old woman who was not ordained, not officially trained in any capacity, but whose heart was for youth. And I am here as your pastor because of her influence in my life. So I think we do a complete disservice whenever we say, oh, well, youth ministry, don't we think that should be a 21-year-old who would attract a bunch of youth? But then what ends up happening, we've tried this, right? We've done this. Their lives are so unstable at 21 that they can't commit to any kind of depth, maturity, consistency. And what youth really need is depth, maturity, and consistency. They have all the flashy, all the celebrity, everything they could possibly want on their phones at the tip of their fingers 24 hours a day. They don't come to church for flashy. They come to church because they need somebody to care about them and listen to them and be a part of their lives on a consistent, regular basis who aren't just their parents. So Bill is going to model for us for a season what it means to be that kind of presence to our teens. And they've got to be on the forefront of our minds. We have got to continue to hold them as the most important thing, the favorites, for a little while, right? It's time. And it's going to take all of us, not just Bill and a couple of others. There's a really good team around him who have given a lot in the last few years, and we want that to continue. Okay. May I close this in prayer? All right. God, we are so grateful for the many ways that ministry has been accomplished through this church. We know there's a lot to hear, and after sitting through worship, it can be challenging to sit for another hour and commit ourselves to that, but this is the way that you help us know what's happening through the hands and feet of this congregation, through the education of this congregation, through the prayer and the care of this congregation, and the way you've been working in other ways. And so we give you thanks for all of the good energy, all of the life, all of the wonderful things that you're up to through the people of this church. Give us the wisdom to know how to continue to be your salt and your light wherever it is you might send us. And be with us as we leave this space today and go back to our corners of the world. Help us to be salt and light there as well. It's in your name we pray. Amen. One last thing is before Jay adjourns us, we should not do a celebration of ministry at a business meeting and not acknowledge all of the wonderful ways in which Larry and Melissa Jorgensen, though they hate getting credit for it, have helped solidify fellowship through potlucks, meals. The hospitality that they exude in everything they do has been life-giving this year, and so we are thankful. Thank you.
One last comment. Betty Lee, it does not fall on deaf ears, your comment. We in the EC we don't take it lightly that there is trust here. And we thank you for that trust because it allows us to be free about our thinking and really think about how to move this congregation forward to grow it in this changing community. So thank you all for that trust. And with that, meeting adjourned.